Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Neni Ruhaeni. I am a lecturer of Faculty of Law, Bandung Islamic University. I'm here today to talk to you about halal certification on food product under the Indonesian regulation in the frame of GATT-WTO 1994. Okay, to discuss this issue, it is important to understand what the halal is. Have you heard about the words halal or haram? You might be know that halal comes from Arabic words that mean allowed or acceptable or permitted, and it is considered contrary to the word of haram that mean not permitted. For Muslim, all food is allowed to be consumed or traded, except foods that are categorized as prohibited food or haram food in the Holy Quran and Hadith. Actually, the concept of halal is not only related to food or food product, but includes all aspects of a Muslim life. Now we turn to the halal certification topic. The halal certification is an authoritative recognition from the state for a food product, and it is implemented in the form of the application of the halal logo or halal symbol. And it is not only based on the types of animals that are forbidden to eat under Islamic law, it also refers to other factors, namely whether the method of managing halal food is in accordance with Islamic law. In the guarantee system of halal certification for food product, there are two models that can be applied, that is voluntary one and mandatory one. The first model, that is voluntary, producers are not forced to apply halal certification and labels to their product. Producers can simultaneously sell halal and haram product at the same time, but if they want to sell halal product, they must obtain a halal certification from the competent authority after fulfilling the provision in accordance with the applicable law. And the second, the mandatory one. In this model, producers are obliged only to market halal products. Selling illegal product is whole or in part is prohibited. In the context of international trade, the mandatory model also includes the prohibition of importing haram product into a country's market, including food products. As mentioned, halal certification is implemented in the form of the application of halal logo. Like I display here, the logo of halal. And then when you see the halal symbol, you know the product ingredients have been thoroughly checked by auditor and food technologists, and all ingredients are halal from halal sources, and also processing and packaging is clean. Nowadays, in Indonesia, we already have a regulation concerning the halal product guarantee. That is the Act number 33 of 2014 concerning halal product guarantee, hereinafter called UUJPH. And the UUJPH then is elaborated by Government Regulation number 31 of 2019 concerning implementation regulation of the Act number 33 of 2014 concerning halal product guarantee, or hereinafter we call PPJPH. The roadmap of halal certification in Indonesia began since 1976 until 1996. In 1976, Indonesian Health Ministry Regulation number 280/11/11/76 concerning circulation and labeling on food containing ingredients derived from pork. And in the before the issue of the Act number 33, We already have interinstitutional coordination was carried out between the Ministry of Religion, the Ministry of Health, and the MUI through a cooperation scheme in 1996. We need to elaborate the provision contained in UUJPH and PPJPH that reveals the mandatory scheme or the mandatory models of the application of halal certification in Indonesia. We can see from the Article 4, Article 6, and Article 29 of the UUJPH and elaborated in several articles in PPJPH. Article 4 of UUJPH stated that products which enter, circulate, and trade in the territory of Indonesia must be halal certified. This stipulate that Indonesia apply the mandatory model for halal certification on food product. The Article 4 of UUJPH already elaborated in Article 2 of PPJPH, which have the similar formulation of the regulation, which stated that products which enter, circulate, and trade in the territory of Indonesia must be halal certified. Then the authority for halal certification of a product is carried out by a new institution, namely the organizing body of halal product guarantee, hereinafter called PPJPH, as stipulated in Article 6 of UUJPH. This article elaborated in Article 4 until Article 29 of PPJPH, which elaborating on the role of PPJPH and its cooperation with related parties, including international cooperation. So that the Article 4 and 29 is more detailed because it's elaborating the Article 6 of the UUJPH. The Article 29 of UUJPH regulate the procedure for obtaining halal certification or halal certificate, and it already elaborated by Article 61 until Article 67 of PPJPH, that elaborating on the procedures for obtaining halal certificate, including foreign halal registration procedures. Now we comes to the issue of the halal certification in the frame of international trade. As we know that international trade framework has several objectives and functions. The objectives are raising standard of living, ensuring full employment, growing income and effective demand, and expanding production, also sustainable development. The framework of international trade also have the function as facilitation in trade, as forum negotiation, as dispute settlement, and function in international cooperation in global economic policy making. All the objectives and functions here comes to the trade liberalization. As previously explained, the obligation of halal certification is also applied to imported food products. From an international trade perspective, this can be considered a trade barrier as it restricts market access. That is something is prohibited by a trade agreement. So the halal certification in international trade perspective being a barrier to restrict the access market on international trade. The market access restriction in international trade framework have stipulated two kinds of the restriction. The first one is tariff restriction, and the second one, the non-tariff restriction. The tariff restriction is usually carried out through import duty fees or certain tariff for imported goods. The stipulation of tariff and import duties here is usually carried out to protect domestic industries. Non-tariff restrictions are usually carried out by limiting quantity through quotas or other non-tariff barriers. As we know that the principles of open market access and non-discrimination are key in the development of international trade through the WTO. Therefore, the WTO emphasizes its member countries to reduce trade barriers and not make policy that are discriminatory. For your information, that GATT-WTO have several principles and apply this principle as a pillars of the WTO, such as most favored nation principle, national treatment principle, market access principle, and general exception principles. The issue related with these principles have been raised some cases in international trade in the frame of WTO. One of the case is the case of Indonesia and versus Brazil concerning the chicken product from Brazil which come to Indonesia. In the case of Brazil versus Indonesia, WTO panel respect the reason to form UUJPH was to protect the majority of the Muslim population in Indonesia. However, Brazil more emphasizes on discrimination against chicken product from Brazil with domestic chicken product sold in the wet market in Indonesia. Because the chicken product sold in wet market in Indonesia directly considered as halal without wearing halal logo or halal symbol on the product. So that the halal food product in international trade schemes nowadays comes to be a crucial issue because they already raise some cases in international trade in the frame of WTO. The halal food product in international trade schemes raise some legal problem, and it's come because the concept of halal nowadays has become a global concept, and it is not limited to the problem of how to slaughter animals or to be free from the element of alcohol and pork, but includes production, processes, and services. And also the halal food product, the demand for halal food product nowadays comes from Muslim and non-Muslim countries. They think that the halal food product more guaranteed quality and safety. So that halal certification based on UUJPH and PPJPH has been considered as a non-tariff trade barrier in the frame of international trade because that limit market access of a country. So it is contrary with the principle of non-discrimination. Finally, we come to the conclusion that referring to the UUJPH and PPJPH, halal certification of food product in Indonesia, which is an obligation or mandatory, not voluntary or voluntary, can provide legal certainty for Muslim consumers to consume halal food product as a form of exercising the right to freedom of religion. However, in the context of international trade, this can lead to several legal problems because this provision is considered to violate the principle of non-discrimination based on the GATT-WTO 1994. Okay, that's all what I explained here about one subject from the topic we already researched through the LPPM scheme. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.